Let's build your vocabulary with collocations. And these are words that are frequently used together. And that is why I say that they are super common phrases in just spoken English, and you're going to come across them all the time. I have a lot of different collocations that I want to go over with you. And this is a quiz lesson. So, of course, I would love it if you participate, write your answers in the chat, in the comments. I just love hearing from you. So, here is the first question, and then I'm going to highlight the collocation, and I want to follow up, and we'll give you some more as well. Because for many of these questions, there's going to be more than one answer. So a percentage of the population spends more than 1 hour on their phone each day. What do you think? How would you complete that sentence? A percentage of the population spends more than 1 hour on their phone each day. So we're talking about words that are frequently used together. In this case, there's an adjective that is missing. And of course, there are many different adjectives that you can use. I'm just going to highlight one, and then I want to give you some more phrases that you can use, and then compare them as well. So I see some great answers. Again, whether, high, certain, vast, huge. The word that I was thinking of, and again, like I said, there's more than one answer to these questions. So just keep that in mind. I was just saying a high percentage of the population spends more than 1 hour on their phone each day. Here are some other useful collocations when we're talking about a adjective percentage of something. A high percentage of something, a large percentage of something, or a great percentage of something. There were other answers in there, a certain percentage, a vast percentage. Those work as well. But if we're just taking these, high, large, and great, just to give you a little more context when it comes to, well, which phrase should I use? If you can use different phrases when explaining something, there's not necessarily a correct or incorrect way, but one thing I like to point out when it comes to these collocations is the frequency in which they're used, because I think many of you would like to use the phrase that is more commonly used when somebody is speaking English. So just comparing these, you can see that more often you're going to use and come across the phrase high percentage when comparing those collocations. So again, this is a great way to build your vocabulary and learn a lot of different phrases at one time. I want to make a very quick announcement, because if you are interested in practicing and improving your speaking skills, you can check out my speaking course. There is a link down below in the description. The course is for upper intermediate to advanced speakers. It's all about helping you speak confidently, speak clearly, and speak naturally. Check out that link down below in the description, and you can also use a code to get a discount. But this is something that I talk about in the course. If we come across some examples, I try to provide information about, well, this is a more commonly used collocation. You're going to use this verb with this noun, or this adjective with this noun. So like the next one. Here's the next question. If you would like to see the doctor, I recommend that you an appointment for next week. Once again, there is more than one word that you could use to complete this sentence, and then trying to understand which one is more commonly used. So if you would like to see the doctor, I recommend that you an appointment for next week. I think you could say schedule. I think overwhelmingly, and I see this in the comments, schedule works, but you would make an appointment in this context. You're going to make an appointment for the next day, the next week. The one thing I wanted to point out, the difference, because you could use another verb, to make an appointment versus to have an appointment. So you would use make an appointment when referring to scheduling an appointment, and in that case, you could use schedule as well. If you have an appointment, then that means that it has already been scheduled. So just something to keep in mind, because with some of these phrases, there are differences. What do you think? How do I get people to respect my personal So we're talking about respecting someone's personal what? What word could you put in there? It is a common collocation. These words are frequently used together, and I've basically highlighted the collocation for you. To respect someone's personal what? There, again, I think a couple of common words that you could use in this context. You can use that picture to give you a little bit of a hint. I think it does help. So what I would say is, how do I get people to respect my personal space? We're talking about someone's personal space, like they need a little more room. Here are some other useful collocations. I told you I'm kind of throwing a lot of phrases at you, but the idea is that you're probably familiar with most of these already. And hopefully you're even able to use them as well. To respect personal space, to respect personal boundaries, or to respect personal privacy. Those are commonly used phrases. One thing I will say is that in this case, we are using that possessive adjective like my personal space. When we're using that like respect someone, personal, I think in that case, you're overwhelmingly going to follow it with space, to respect someone's personal space. But once again, this is, I thought this was a funny meme, so I wanted to share it with you. Again, try to bring a little humor into these lessons. I think it's a fun way to, learn the language. So in this case, it says, dude, you're in my personal space. And yeah, that is a great example of somebody, not respecting another's personal space or those personal boundaries. What do you think about this one? I'm sure many of you are familiar with this picture right here. This scene was in the news very recently, and there was a meeting, of course, between Trump and Zelensky, and I could say that the meeting ended what? How would the meeting end? In this case, I'm using an adverb, so I'll go ahead and tell you the part of speech. Sure, there are different answers you can give. But I wanted to share a few different collocations, and then once again, we're going to compare the frequency. The meeting ended badly. Yeah, that definitely works. It did end badly. Abruptly, good answer. This is a good way to kind of exercise those vocabulary muscles because, like I said, it's not just one answer that you could use. The meeting ended terribly. That also works. Badly, perfect. So the word that I was thinking of and that I wanted to highlight because I think badly, of course, works well. I think that is a very a common adverb. If you wanted to be a little more precise, you could use a word like abruptly. So abruptly means in a sudden, unexpected, and sometimes unpleasant way. So I think it's a great adverb to describe how that meeting went. It ended abruptly. To give you a little more context, I shared some news headlines with you, and I came up with this sentence before I even found that news headline. Top moments from the Trump-Zelensky meeting that ended abruptly. Yes. Kroger CEO abruptly resigns after probe into personal conduct. And then finally, China abruptly replaces tech czar behind AI and chip push. So just keep that in mind. This is a great adverb. I don't think it's too advanced, but if you're saying something happens abruptly or it ends abruptly, it's just a great, precise word. I told you that we're going to make some comparisons. And once again, I'm going back to Ngram Viewer. I don't know if I mentioned that before. You can use this site to compare phrases and see how frequently they're used. So I have ended abruptly, ended suddenly, and ended unexpectedly, because that is the meaning of abruptly. And as you can see, using ended abruptly is more commonly used than those other phrases. So it is a great adverb to know. Well done. All right. I like these lessons when there's more than one response and you can kind of just think of different words that can go in there. So what about this one? This is a little more challenging because there is a specific word that I'm thinking of. You won't get it. It's an joke. So two things that I want you to keep in mind as you're trying to think of this collocation. And it is a collocation with the word joke. The first thing is that somebody's saying, look, you won't get it. You're not going to understand this. And then they say, it's an joke. You see that article, an, so you know then that the next word is going to begin with a vowel sound. So if we're keeping those two hints in mind, you would say, you won't get it. It's an inside joke. All right, well done. Excellent. Saw a lot of great answers. So if we're talking about an inside joke, I've given you some other collocations that you would not put in this sentence, but other collocations with joke as well as the meaning. So an inside joke is one that is only understood by people with specific knowledge, and hence that first part of the sentence. Look, you won't get it. It's an inside joke. Now, another collocation, a running joke, is just a joke that's repeated many times. You could say something is a bad joke, a joke that's not funny. I am infamous on this channel for sharing some bad jokes with you. And then if you say, oh, look, it's a little joke. It's a joke that is intended to be harmless. So sometimes maybe you make a joke and somebody, if they're getting upset, you're like, look, it's just a little joke. All right, you're trying to say, okay, it's not supposed to be very harmful. So hopefully, again, that if you're not familiar with these phrases, that they make sense, because you are going to come across them, movies, TV shows, and just casual conversation. They're useful. What about this one right here? This is a place that I need to go very soon, the dentist. And the dentist, you go into the dentist, you sit down. I'm sure you all are familiar with that chair right there. And the dentist would say, let me a look at your teeth. Let me a look at your teeth. I think this is almost like a kind of a standard sentence when you go into the dentist. Maybe they even teach this at dental school. Who knows? But you would tell the person, let me a look at your teeth. There are two words that I think would commonly be used in this situation. A look at something. So that is our collocation. In this case, I'd say, let me take a look at your teeth. And you're going to take a look at something. Now, of course, you could say, take a look or have a look. That also works. Either one. Let me have a look at your teeth. Let me take a look at your teeth. And you would have a look at something or take a look at it. But again, we can compare them using Ngram Viewer, and you can see that it's more common to hear people say and use to take a look at something. Look, let's take a look at this, or let's take a look at that, or let me take a look at your teeth. So listen for this. The next time you go to the dentist, see if, I don't know if they'll be speaking English to you. Maybe. If they are, then try to listen for that. Let me take a look at your teeth. All right, excellent. Moving right along. Love it seeing these hearts and emojis. Love it. Gets me going. How about this? This is something else. I try to make these questions relevant, I guess, to my own personal experience. Like I said, I need to go into the dentist. This is something else that I need to, I don't want to give it away. I almost actually end up saying the word that's missing. We're talking about taxes. Now is the time of year when I have to my taxes. Once again, there are, several verbs that you could use in this context. I'm going to point out one, and then we'll talk about some others. So just looking at what some of you said, to do my taxes, to file my taxes, to pay my taxes. All right, so all of those are, what I'm seeing in the chat, everything, these are collocations. The one thing that I'd point out, or the distinction that I want to make, what I said as far as like, if I'm saying this to you, me personally, I'd probably use do. Like, yeah, now it's time I got to do my taxes. I'm not really looking forward to doing my taxes. I just don't like doing my taxes. I think it is interchangeable with file. You could say, I have to file my taxes. In my opinion, it sounds maybe a little more formal to say to file your taxes. I think this is more casual and just conversation to do my taxes. The one thing that I wanted to point out with pay, because you can pay your taxes, but I feel like do and file would be a little more precise in this context, because you're really preparing these documents. You're doing your taxes. Sometimes you do have to pay. Other times you might get a refund. So when I think of to pay taxes, I think of just talking about, you have to maybe pay a sales tax, or you have to pay an import tax, or you have to pay income taxes. So in that case, I feel like you would often use pay in those situations. But just as far as like this time of year, annually. You got to do your taxes. You got to file your taxes. Once again, in this case, you can see it's a little more common to say to do my taxes than file. But either one of those would work well in that situation. Again, I know I'm giving you a lot of phrases. Hopefully some of these are new, or even as I talk about them, do your taxes, file your taxes. You think, okay, I've heard these before. I have come across both of those verbs in that context. It's all about building your vocabulary. It's gonna take a amount of effort to finish the project. What word could you put in there? A amount of effort to finish the project. So you can kind of probably put the collocation together, an amount of, I mean, we're talking about effort, but it'd be an amount of something. Again, there are, in this case, probably this one, there are many different words that you could use to correctly complete this sentence. I think, once again, when trying to come up with these words, this is a great way to be more descriptive, because you're adding, instead of just saying, hey, it's going to take effort to finish this project, you're adding another word that is going to be, gives the other person a little more information. So just to read it, somebody's, it's going to take an enormous amount of effort. That works. A tremendous amount of effort, a massive amount of effort. Yes. A large amount of effort. There are many great answers. So one that I have not seen that I'm going to highlight right now, which, again, you can keep in mind. This is one that I like to use. And when we're talking about an amount of something, this is a word that's often used, a considerable amount of effort. So a considerable amount of something, it really just means the same as these other ones. So I've already mentioned a few of them already: a considerable amount of, a tremendous amount of, an enormous amount of, a massive amount of, or even, to give you another one, a substantial amount of. All of these phrases would work in this context. And one thing that I talk about even as I would go through my speaking course is getting a little bit of language variety. You don't want to just say, okay, every time I want to use this, I'm only going to use tremendous amount of. There's a tremendous amount of effort, or I owe a tremendous amount of money, or there's going to be a tremendous amount of rain. You want to vary your sentences from time to time, just to, it just is more captivating in that regard. So all of these collocations work. You could even use some of the others. Again, the idea for this lesson is just to get the vocabulary juices flowing. I want to explain something. What do you think? Our employees seem a little down. We need to find a way to morale. So a couple of things I want to point out. You say the employees seem a little down. This is a phrase to say they're sad. Now, the picture, they do not look down, all right? This is kind of after the fact. Then the employees look very helpful. They look very happy. So our employees seem a little down. We need to find a way to morale. Keep in mind that final word, morale, the pronunciation, the stress is on that second syllable, morale. There are, again, there's a couple of phrases that I'm primarily going to highlight when you're talking about morale, whether it's employee morale or some other type of morale. So the word, excellent, you could say, yeah, to boost morale, to increase morale, to, what else would lift up? Improve morale. You could also use a phrasal verb, bring up, as well. But the word that I had in there is to boost morale, boost employee morale. I like this verb when talking about morale. This is a common collocation. It's not like you're going to use the word boost in a lot of other circumstances, but in this case, it's a good one. Some of them would work. Raise morale, I don't think is commonly used. I say upgrade. I don't think I would use upgrade in this context as well. I would stick with boost, bring up, improve. What else did we see? Increase. I think somebody said uplift. I wouldn't use uplift either in this context. So I'm comparing a few, like right here, to boost morale, to lift morale. That was another one that I had, I forgot to mention. as well as to raise morale. So if we're comparing those three phrases with those verbs, boost, lift, raise, you can see it's more commonly used to say boost morale. Because if you were just to look at those three verbs, boost, lift, raise, you're going to use verbs like lift and raise. You're going to come across those verbs a lot more often than boost. But like I said, when we're talking about morale, that is a noun that is often used, this verb-noun collocation, to boost morale. Something to keep in mind. And again, hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, you can go on to use it if you are, I don't know, a manager or you own your own company and you need to find a way to boost employee morale. What do you think? You can a good living as a computer programmer. You can a good living as a computer programmer. So we have this collocation. We're missing a verb. There are, I think, a couple of them. Well, there are two that primarily that I want to focus on. And we're talking about, I'll give you the collocation, a living. So we have to, somebody said to earn a living. Many of you make a living. And you got it. You guys nailed it. So again, some of these phrases, they're very commonly used. You've heard them before. I hope that you are able to use them if you're having a conversation. You can make a good living as a computer programmer. So that is the collocation, but I told you to earn a good living as well. I feel like to make a living or to earn a living are common. If we're going to use good in there, I would use make. And that is another part of this collocation, to make a good living doing something. Otherwise, you could just say to make a living, to earn a living. Both of those are commonly used. Once again, if I were just to compare those two, make a living versus earn a living, it is more common to use make a living. And I don't know if you've noticed the answers that I've been giving you when I make these comparisons. Those are the ones that I'm putting in there as the answer, the one that is more commonly used, because that is the one that I want to highlight. If you got that correct, let me know. You can hit that emoji, the 100, the like, thumbs up, whatever. That tells me that yes, you're getting most of these, and that you understand them and you're able to use them. Perfect. Again, I wanted to throw in this little joke here just to keep it loose. This is this picture of Santa Claus with the reindeer. What is that on your back? Hey, a deer's got to make a living. And it's like he has this version of like DoorDash that he's delivering food while they're delivering these presents. Love it. How about this one? Don't work too hard. This is just the beginning. Your strength. Now, this is a collocation that I think is often used as a standalone sentence. Your strength. So try to think about the first part in order to come up with that missing word. Don't work too hard. This is just the beginning. Your strength. Which word would you put in there that would really fit this context and complete this sentence? And like I said, I think you often would use this as a standalone sentence that you would be telling to someone else, kind of like giving them a command and saying, look, your strength. There is one word that I think is probably more commonly used than some of the others. Write your answers in the chat, in the comments. I just love it when you all are participating in these lessons. So the word that I think is definitely more commonly used in this context, telling somebody to save your strength. So once again, I'm going to give you some other collocations with save as well as the meaning down here, because there are many collocations with these individual words. So if somebody tells you, look, save your strength, they're just saying don't waste your energy. This is a common statement in this context. I don't think, I didn't compare them, but I saw a keep in there, like keep your strength. I don't think it would work as well. In this case, in my opinion, I would encourage you to use save. If you're telling someone, look, save your strength. You're going to need it later on. Save your strength. You could also save someone a seat. In that case, you're reserving or you're keeping a seat for another person. You might save yourself the trouble by you basically avoid involving someone in a useless effort. Like, you don't need to get involved. Look, just save yourself the trouble. And then finally, save the best for last. You're going to keep something appealing until the very end. These are some common collocations with the word save. I know I'm giving you a lot here. Hopefully you're familiar with many of these already. This is, well, I'll tell you where I'm going with this in just a moment. I'm very curious to see what responses people put in here. This is taking too long. You need to a decision. This is taking too long. You need to a decision. And I'm kind of curious because this is a word, there is one that I think is more common than the others, but the other way, which I don't want to say it's not incorrect, but it's one that I often hear, and I to generally tell people like, hey, I think I would use this verb instead. So overwhelmingly, it seems like saying make, which is right. That is the answer that I have for you. You need, when talking about a decision, you need to make a decision. However, what I often hear when, like throughout the course, I'm talking with people and they are explaining something, a lot of times I hear people say, take a decision. And I would say in the US, overwhelmingly people are going to make a decision. And to be honest, I always thought maybe take a decision was more commonly used in British English. But however, just based on, more reading into it more, I actually don't think that's incorrect. So the first thing I want to point out is if we're comparing those two, to make a decision versus take a decision, as you can see, it's much more commonly used to say make a decision. Now, like I said, I thought it was something that might be more common in British English, but just looking into it, it's actually not. This is an article from Grammar Girl, which is a great resource, great website where they really break down some of these things. And in this case, they were breaking down like take a decision or make a decision. And it says some people say that take a decision is British, and lots of British speakers deny using the phrase. So it's like, what's the story? And I've only taken this one piece right here, but the article goes on to say, based on different polls, that most British people even say make a decision. But as far as a reason why I hear foreigners say this, second language speakers, one thing is in many other languages, in your native language, maybe it is take instead of make, and it's just maybe a language translation thing than anything else. So just something to keep in mind. But in this case, I would encourage you to just say, like, look, I've already made my decision, or you need to make a decision, and use make when talking about that noun. Here is a little review. These are all of the collocations that we talked about in this lesson, as well as many others that I wanted to share with you. But once again, this is a great little exercise to build your vocabulary, but again, just get those vocabulary juices flowing. This is something that we talk about in my speaking course. Again, if you're interested in joining, you can check out the link down below in the description and use that discount code if you would like to speak with me and practice and improve your skills. So I would recommend that you continue thinking about collocations or building your vocabulary using collocations, because this is a great way to learn the phrases that are commonly used in just everyday conversation. If you did learn something new, you can hit that like button. It always helps. Subscribe to the channel and just continue building your vocabulary so that you can be a little more descriptive and precise when you're having a conversation, telling a story. All of it really helps. So thank you again for being here. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you really soon in the future for